BTK, the name that has spread fear across America for decades. Behind a normal and exemplary life is a cold-blooded killer whose crimes are too horrible to imagine. In this video, we will explore his gruesome journey of crime, how he hid his identity for so long, and why he is known as BTK. Join me in discovering the horrifying truth behind this perfect appearance. Hiding under the mask of a trustworthy and responsible man, Dennis Rader is a psychopath with a series of horrifying murders. Before being arrested, Dennis Rader, also known as BTK, one of the most cold-blooded killers in America, had a nearly perfect life. He was the president of the Council of Bishops, a Boy Scout leader, a loving father and grandfather. He seemed to be a trustworthy and responsible man. But beneath the mask was a psychopath who had committed many terrible acts. No one, not even his wife Paula Dietz, could have guessed that he was the notorious BTK killer in Park City, Kansas. From 1974 to 1991, he tortured and killed 10 innocent victims. The nickname BTK stands for Bind, Torture, Kill, which was Rader's gruesome and brutal method of committing his crimes. When the criminal was arrested in 2005, his wife Paula and daughter Carrie could not believe the truth before their eyes. "My father was the one who taught me to live a moral life. He taught me the difference between good and bad, right and wrong," his daughter recalled. Life before becoming the BTK killer, Dennis Lynn Rader was born on March 9, 1945, in Pittsburgh, Kansas. He was the eldest son and older brother of 3 children in a middle-class family in Wichita, Kansas. This is also where he repeatedly killed many people. Rader showed a perverted and violent personality from his youth. He hanged and tortured many wild animals. In a radio interview, he explained that he had some psychological problems and perverted desires when he was in school. He used to tie his hands and feet and cover his head with plastic bags, similar to the way he tortured many of his later victims. He cut out pictures of women from magazines and drew obscene things on them. But Rader hid those sick thoughts under the guise of a normal person by going to college and later joining the U.S. Air Force. After being discharged, he returned to work as an electrician in Wichita, and there met his wife, Paula Dietz. He proposed to her after only a few dates, and they married in 1971. First Murder Rader was fired in 1973 and committed his first crime on January 15, 1974. While his wife was sleeping, he broke into the Otero home and killed each member of the ill-fated family. His 2 children, Josie and Joseph, who were only 11 and 9 years old at the time, were forced to watch as he strangled their parents to death. Josie cried out, "Mommy, I love you," as she watched the horrific scene. He dragged her into the basement, stripped her, and hung her from a drain pipe. When she asked him what he intended, he calmly replied that she would see her family in heaven. He stood by as Josie struggled, then took pictures of the bodies and kept some of the victims' belongings as mementos of his first massacre. Dennis Rader then went home to his wife and got dressed to go to church. At that time, he was still a respected bishop in the eyes of many people. While her husband was behind many horrific murders, Rader's wife, Paula Dietz, worked hard to build their happiness. He killed 2 more victims just a few months after his first heinous crime. Rader followed and broke into the apartment of young student Catherine Bright, then stabbed and strangled her. Rader then shot Catherine's brother twice, but he luckily survived. Her brother described Rader as having psychotic eyes. Paula was 3 months pregnant with Rader's first child when he began to secretly brag about his accomplishments. He detailed how he killed the Oteros in a letter to the police and placed it in a book at the Wichita Public Library. Rader contacted a local newspaper, reporting the location of the confession. In the letter, he added that he would continue to kill more victims and gave himself the nickname BTK. Dennis had intended to stop when Paula became pregnant. "I was so excited about the prospect of the 2 of us and the kids. Now we were officially a family. With the kids and work, I was too busy." But his demons only lay dormant for a few years. In 1977, he returned to his old ways, killing and raping his 7th victim, Shirley Vian. Similar to his previous crimes, his 6-year-old son, Shirley, had to witness his disgusting behavior through the peephole in her room. A few days earlier, Dennis's wife had found in the house a draft of a poem titled Shirley Locks with the line, Don't scream, lie down on the mattress, think of me in death. Paula had no suspicions about this unusual thing. She also didn't question it when her husband marked up newspaper articles about the serial killer and called it his own code. Even when Paula realized that BTK's letters to the police were full of spelling mistakes that her husband also made, she didn't suspect anything and just gently teased, "You spell exactly like BTK." She also wasn't curious about the sealed box he kept in the house. This was the box that kept the trophy that he affectionately called "My Lord." It was filled with evidence from the BTK crime scene: the dead woman's underwear, the victim's driver's license, photos of him wearing the victim's clothes, and then strangling and burying himself alive, recreating the gruesome way he committed the crime. "My habit was to find and keep the victim's underwear. Then I would dream about the day of the crime, or start a new dream," Dennis said during his interview. His wife, on the other hand, insisted to police that her husband was a good man, a great father. "My husband would never hurt anyone." A double life: the perfect father and the terrifying killer. The perfect cover even fooled BTK's own children. Their father, at worst, was a strict Christian father. His daughter, Carrie, recalled that once her father strangled her younger brother in a fit of rage, and she and her mother had to intervene to save his life. "I can still remember the anger exploding on his face," Carrie recalled. But ironically, it was this father who comforted Carrie when she heard about the murders that had taken place right in their neighborhood. Every morning, her father waved to neighbor Maureen Hedge on his way to church. This was Dennis's 8th victim, bound and strangled. Dennis had reassured his family, "Don't worry, we're safe." But the truth was that Rader had murdered the victim the night before, after sneaking out on a camping trip with his son. He returned and continued the picnic as if nothing had happened. In 1986, he killed his 9th victim, 28-year-old Vicky Wegerle, in front of her 2-year-old child in her crib. Perhaps the case would have remained unsolved if the killer hadn't accidentally exposed himself. Family broken, Paula refused to return to her home when Rader confessed to all the crimes and filed for divorce. The Raders remained silent throughout the trial. No defense was offered except Rader's "I think I might be possessed by the devil." The media speculated that Paula Dietz knew about her husband's crimes, but kept quiet to protect him and ignored the signs. Rader's daughter initially resented her father, especially when he told a newspaper that she looked like him. BTK's 4 children all knew that they shared their father's blood and that he still existed somewhere in them. They also knew that if Rader had been caught in the first murder, none of them would have been born. "It almost drove me crazy," Carrie said. "And most of the time I feel guilty because I'm alive. The victims are dead. I'm alive. But perhaps the hardest thing to accept is that despite what he did, Rader was still their father. Should I tell him that I grew up loving him and that he was the light of my life?" Carrie wrote in her autobiography, A Serial Killer's Daughter. "I just wish he were sitting next to me in the movie theater eating popcorn. But that's just my imagination. He'll never have those moments again. Is that worth it?" Carrie wrote in her autobiography, referring to Rader. Thank you for watching until the end. If you found the story of BTK, the cold-blooded killer hidden behind a perfect facade, interesting, leave a comment and share your thoughts on this case. Don't forget to like, share this video, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss more gripping stories. Hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest content. See you in the next video.